This is Group 9, Conflict Theory and the Oppression of the Homeless. Group members include Kelly Bone, Andrea C, Arthur Hines, and Tina Husky. To begin the presentation, we will begin with identifying what conflict theory means. Conflict theory is a way of studying society that focuses on the inequalities of different groups in a society. It is based on the ideas of Karl Marx from the 19th century. He believed a society evolved through several stages. These stages include feudalism, capitalism, and socialism. Conflict theory has four specific principles. Conflict is inevitable. There is an unequal distribution of power in relationships. There is an ongoing struggle for scarce resources, and whoever has the most power controls the distribution of resources. Conflict theories is helpful in understanding clients who are battling with oppression in some form. To help them overcome the conflicts, reduce or eliminate harm, and improve their lives. It is in our human nature that we labor and create. Society is always in a state of constant change and struggle, but conflict does not always mean violence. Areas of conflict. Conflict theory states that tensions and conflicts arise when resources, status, and power are unevenly distributed between groups in society, and that these conflicts become the engine for social change. When dealing with social conflict theories, there is a lot of different areas that conflicts may arise from. Initially, conflict theory talked about class conflicts. It has since lent itself over the years to studies of other kinds of conflicts, such as race, gender, sexuality, religion, culture, and nationality, among others. These are all part of contemporary social structures and how they affect our lives. Terms used in conflict theory. Dialectical materialism, meaning humans and animals are alike in their basic needs. Capitalism is when things are taken away due to power. Macro practice is used to discuss the relationships among classes of workers. And mesopractice is to help enforce policy that has been created so that all people are treated equally. These terms came from Marxism. Marx believed that the economic form that a society used created the dynamics of all other social institutions, with an ongoing debate that there is always at least two sides to an issue, which then led to the development of the principles of conflict theory, which are listed on a previous slide. Client systems. Conflict theory does not contain specific steps or stages. Therefore, there may be multiple ways of intervening when using conflict theory. Client systems include goal setting, interventions, assessment, engagement, termination, and evaluations. Each of these systems play a role within conflict theory and can be used in various ways. Goal setting. To help a group of people work together to accomplish a common goal. Intervention is to intervene when there is action to be taken, to help empower the small voices if needed. Assessment is to observe, to make notes of the situation. What is the best way to support the client? Engagement is when a social worker takes the time to get to know the individual, observe the dynamics, and create a relationship. In this stage, active listening is important when gathering information. Termination occurs when the power imbalance is resolved and distribution of resources is equalized. Evaluations are used to check and track progress. The evaluation is used to measure the consistency of the program, character, nature, and quality of services. Next, we'll talk about strengths related to conflict theory. Conflict theory can be used at all practice levels to analyze the dynamics of a conflict. It can be widely used across all populations and practice settings. Power relations are structural in orientation. Conflict doesn't happen because one person likes to argue. Conflict theory can lead to change, and change is good. Conflict theory can be useful to help individuals examine their relationships and conflicts. The structure of conflict theory allows arguing, but also supports continuance because there is an unequal distribution of power in the relationship. With strengths also comes limitations. Interventions used in conflict theory can vary widely. Continued dialogue prevents actual termination, leading to an imbalance of power. Conflict theory can be difficult to evaluate. Clinicians need to be cautious of indiscriminately using the theory and intervening to correct power imbalances. In relationships, the safety of all individuals should be a primary concern. Conflict theory in the homeless population. Homelessness mirrors everything that is broken in our society. It reflects our biases, our meanness, our lack of compassion, and our views of each other as fellow human beings. According to Jeff Ovulet, homelessness is not a social issue. It is not a resource question to be studied, and it is certainly not a type of person, someone who ends up on the streets through a series of bad choices or personal flaws. Conflict theory relates to homelessness in that it is an unequal power distribution where the wealthy continue to be wealthy while the poor stay poor. In addition, the wealthy control how the homeless live by using their wealth to influence politicians, policies, and laws. Lastly, we will discuss interventions related to conflict theory. As a social worker, we need to be aware of our influence and power, especially when working with oppressed populations such as the homeless. How can we do this? 1. Being aware of our body language. 2. Listening for evidence of oppression within individuals, groups, and communities. 3. Paying attention to the role of conflict leading to client vulnerability. 4. Organize to alter power relationships. And lastly, recognize dominant and subdominant groups compete for resources. This concludes Group 9's presentation of conflict theory and the oppression of the homeless. Thank you for listening.